We love this. I'm glad that you're on board with it as well. I know people have a lot of very mixed feelings about vehicles.
On board the boat. I see what you did there.
Swab the poop deck, matey. Let's move on. This sure looks like the MTG Thoughtcast. And you sure look like John. And that must make me, Joseph, your hosts of the MTG Thoughtcast. It's us. Welcome.
Just the two of us. We killed Jared.
The two of us. Our boy Jared got lost in the caverns of Ixalan. We're gonna find him later. We'll see. We'll descend the depths of the caverns and we'll see if we can find our boy Jared along the way. But if this is the MTG Thoughtcast, then that means that you must be you. And we want to thank you for watching. Thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for watching. Before we get into all of the goodies for today, we have some very exciting Commander decks to talk about in our journeys today. Real quick, you can follow us along on our Discord page, which is linked in the bio. That way, whichever way John's pointing right now.
One of those two ways, yeah.
You can subscribe to us here on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, you should be, because I think that's the only place that this is available. Give us a little subscribe. Yeah. It's free. We don't want your money. We just want the robots to like us. So give us a follow there. And personally, on a personal note, I will say, if you haven't watched our live play video yet, the first initial episode of the MTG Thought Clash, we worked really hard on that for you. So if you want to watch it, go check it out. Today is a lovely Thursday afternoon for us.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what day this is coming out? It's a lovely morning. Just hanging out here with my biological brother, John Kendall. How are you doing, John?
Hi. Doing just fine. It's a little bit of a cold one out here today. There's frost outside. And
it's freezing here.
Yeah? Yeah, it hit like under 20 the other night. It's cold. It got cold all of a sudden. But
it's that time of year.
I love that, right? Like day after Halloween, bam, you're in winter now.
Bam, Christmas. Well, glad you're doing well. What are we talking about today, John?
I think it's the Lost Caverns of Ixalan Commander Precons.
Well, more like the found Caverns of Ixalan Precons.
We found them. Here we are. We found them. All the caves.
Love that. Well, we've got 4 decks to talk about, so we might as well just dive straight on into it. And speaking of diving in, do you want to get us started on some maybe aquatic critters?
Sure, I can start with the merfolk. Why not? So, context background real fast though, because not every set always comes with 4 decks. Sometimes we get 2, sometimes we get 5. They decided to go with the 4 batch around about this time because original Ixalan was very tribal focused theme. They're very type matters, right? So from the original, the type matter stuff carries over into these decks as well. We have a deck themed around merfolk. We have a deck themed around vampires. We have a deck themed around dinosaurs and around pirates.
Classic.
And you just got yourself a nice little 4 tribal type clash against each other. So I'll get us started with the Merfolk deck here. So the Merfolk deck is going to be a Simic colored deck, led by Akbal of the Surging Soul. The theme of this one is obviously Merfolk creature types. That's a general overview across all the decks. All of them are tribal type focused. But the subcategory for Akbal is explores and +1/+1 counters. Akbal of the Surging Soul is 4 mana for a 3/3 Merfolk Scout. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each Merfolk you control explores. Explore is revealing the top card of your library, putting that card into your hand if it's a land. Otherwise, you may put it on back top of your library or into your graveyard, and the creature gets a +1/+1 counter. So exploring either draws you a land or allows you to like kind of filter the top of your deck and things into your graveyard, and it puts a +1/+1 counter on the creature. So this fellow allows each of your merfolk to do that every combat. That is wild.
Strong.
Like even if you've got like a semi-tiny board, right? 4 creatures each doing the top card of your library, right? Like that's a lot of value can be accrue real fast.
Functionally very similar to Surveil, because you're going to draw, like, let's say the top 2 cards of your library is a land and then a non-land card. You're going to draw the land, and then every single one of them after that is going to see the same one unless you put it in your graveyard. So this could be like basically either draw a card or mill one for each merfolk you control every turn.
Right.
And then +1/+1 counters get distributed. Strong.
Exactly. He also has a second benefit for when that Explorer does start putting extra lands into your hand. He's got when Hackbull attacks, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. And if you don't, you just draw a card. So when he attacks, he always has value. If the Explorer has been flooding you out on lands, fantastic. You put another one into play. If you don't want to put a land into play, great. Draw a card.
This is a lot of value for 4 mana. This is
pretty darn good.
If you're playing in a pod with this is a destroy this on site commander. Like if they play it on their main phase, don't let them get to their combat.
Right. He's definitely more exciting than the other backup new legendary creature that comes in the deck. Zolotoic, the Smiling Flood. 6 mana for a 6/6 legendary Salamander Serpent. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, put a flood counter on target land. That land is an island in addition to its other types for as long as it has a flood counter on it. And at the beginning of your end step, you untap each permanent you control that has a flood counter on it.
Yeah, that seems fine. This seems decent in the 99 here because it's going to untap all of your merfolk that have explored.
I know.
It's interesting that this is one of the first creatures that puts a flood counter on something, but you want to put it on your own lands. Most of the time, the flood counters are going on other opponents' lands so that your island walk is turned on.
Yeah, and that's definitely...
Yeah, it's got the possibility of doing that.
Yeah, it's definitely still viable in this deck. Like, give one opponent at least one island so that if you hit the island walk in here, which is not going to happen likely because there's one creature in the deck that has it naturally and one lord that gives it. So island walk is not prominent in this deck at all. But yeah, you're right. Like being able to hit some of your lands. But if you're in the specific colors anyway, like, I mean, yeah, I suppose turning your forests into tropical islands is useful, I suppose. But
yeah, because those stick around even if you get rid of the salamander.
That's true. But why would you want to? Why would you want to blow him up? Look at him. He's precious. Precious baby boy. So yeah, my boy. So the deck does kind of just central revolve around these 2 aspects, specifically having merfolk down and having things with counters on them. Apart from the new legendary creatures that come in these decks, there's also 8 other brand new card designs along with all the reprints. We're just going to be discussing a few here today to kind of move along so that we have the availability to talk about all 4 decks. For the merfolk one specifically, I wanted to give highlights to a couple of them specifically. Wave Goodbye, I think, has to be my pick for the top new card out of this deck. It is 2 and double blue for a sorcery. Return each creature without a +1/+1 counter on it to its owner's hand. Each.
That's hefty.
Yeah. So the board bounces like these are not uncommon. We've seen these kind of things before, and specifically we've seen these cheap ones before that are narrow on their parameters, right? Whelming Wave immediately comes to mind. Whelming Wave bounces all creatures except for krakens, octopuses, leviathans, and serpents. So this is like one of those kind of cards. If you are the dedicated +1/+1 counters deck, this can absolutely be one-sided in a pinch. However, 1/1 counters are 1/1 counters are prevalent across all colors. So if you're in a 4-person pod, you are likely to find somebody who gets to keep like maybe 1 or 2 creatures in play. But still being able to pick up everything else they have while keeping your board intact. Because remember, the face commander of this allows all your merfolk to explore. If you get that to go at least once with the +1/+1 counter thing, fantastic. Now they're bigger and they get evaded from this. I'm also just a man of puns. So a card that's named Wave Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Wave Goodbye.
That's a great one.
My other pick, I'd say, out of this deck that would just generally fit super well anywhere is going to be Tributary Instructor. 3 and a green for a 4/4 Merfolk Shaman with Mentor. Mentor is when this creature attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature with lesser power. And just in general, whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, draw a card.
Yeah, they clearly have popped these guys in here just for the +1/+1 counter strategy, which is very good.
Exactly. But like something like this could just be super in anything that you're doing +1/+1 counters it. Like imagine any form of a commander deck where you've got some kind of ability going on in play that creatures enter with additional counters, or you have a combat focused thing that puts a +1/+1 counter on them every turn. Your things die in combat, or you're playing a sacrifice deck where, like, say, constructs or hydras or something like that are coming in with counters and then just immediately dying. Great, you get cards.
Nice.
It seems really good.
Very surprised you didn't talk about Ripples of Potential.
I don't think it's good.
It phases out your planeswalkers.
It can, but yeah, I suppose.
To me, this is a protection spell for planeswalkers that they've seeded into a Merfolk deck. I would say that this is probably the one. So Ripples of Potential, 1 and a blue for an instant. Proliferate. Choose any number of permanents you control that had a counter put on them this way. Those permanents phase out. So this is, I think that this will see play in a lot of planeswalker-centric decks, a lot of even just proliferate decks. Like this is 2 mana to proliferate and then save your board is not bad.
True. Yeah, that's true. You're right.
Block with a bunch of things and then you ripples, put extra counters on, they phase out, you've fogged.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, you've also been the one to go on record before that these kind of things that like just phase and then don't give you any kind of protection on the way back is like, this is not Teferi's protection.
No. Teferi's protection it is not, but it will protect your Teferis.
Okay, yeah, I see it. Yeah,
come on, that was a good one.
Yeah, I can see that. That's fine. That's definitely another good hit in here. The other new cards are definitely all care about +1/+1 counters, and some of them care about Merfolk. There's a good one in here that does explore. It actually lets you double explore. That one's kind of fun. What's super notable with these decks, though, one of the biggest reasons we're covering all of them specifically, well, we were going to anyways, but the reprint value of these decks is strangely high for something that...
Currently, at the time of recording, on the Moxfield website, which is pulling from TCG Player, the reprint value of this deck is $169.
Nice. No, it's very good. So cover into those real quickly. I've got a list here. Some of the top ones that come in this deck. Branching Evolution is at the top, almost unquestionably. It is incredible with +1/+1 counter things. If it's a +1/+1 counter doubling season, right? It's the +1/+1 counter aspect of doubling season. Super. That's great. Metallic Mimic has been one of the best just general creature type synergy lords that you could play, right? Because it's colorless. You pick whatever type you want it to be. Great. Kindred Discovery is awesome. It's, again, just another means of having the creatures of your chosen type get you extra card advantage.
Yeah, everybody misses the second half of Kindred Discovery, which is whenever a creature of the chosen type enters or attacks, you draw a card.
Yep.
So if you're playing, first of all, I will die on this hill. Please play Artifact Enchantment Hate in your EDH decks so that you don't lose to things like Kindred Discovery. This is, if you're playing black, you should be playing Feed the Swarm just to take care of this thing. You'll take the 5, it'll be fine. But this will win games. Kindred Discovery is unbelievable. Yeah,
super good. Thassa, God of the Sea, is also in here as well. This is the first reprint since Theros, or I guess other than the Secret Lair one. Allowing you to scry. allowing you to scry helps set up your explore, and then making things unblockable helps those explorers get through. And Kumena, Tyrant of Araska, one of the best merfolk commanders from the original Ixalan set, also in here as well as an option that you could play out of the box as well.
Yeah, all of those are over $5 reprints. This is lovely. This is what we love to see. Rapid hybridization as well in the instance.
Yeah, I've got some other good stuff listed here as well. Hardened Scales comes in this deck as well. Reflections of Lit Jara. You choose Merfolk, and every Merfolk comes in with an additional Merfolk. Great. Herald of Secret Streams. That's going to close you out of game because it's a Merfolk for 1, and it makes creatures with 1/1 counters unblockable. Awesome. Cold Ice. Yeah, Cold Ice Elky is one of my personal favorite merfolks. I love it. I play one in my Enchantress Voltron deck, right? Just being able to draw a card for as much damage as it deals. Mwah.
Hits.
Beautiful. Yeah, it seems like a very fun, themed +1/+1 counter thing, right? You've got your creature types that care about +1/+1 counters. You get to do exploring. The main face commander allows you to just explore every turn. So you're going to be like stockpiled on cards, hopefully, while playing this deck. I think it's pretty good. Would I buy it myself? So I don't know. Tribal type decks don't. I don't know. Tribal doesn't really quite do it for me much anymore, to be honest. And I'm a sliver guy. So like that's kind of where my bar is at. Would I buy this? Probably not, but if you're already doing +1/+1 counters, or you've wanted to play something different with Merfolk that isn't just mono blue, this one's a great option. I like this one a lot.
Yeah. Seems great.
Why don't you dive into...
If anybody was looking to get into Merfolk, looking to play a Merfolk commander deck, this is a great place to, at the very least, start. But like, this is nearly a finished deck.
Yeah. Honestly, that could be said true of all 4 of these, right? If any 4 of these creature types have been of any interest to you, the amount of new stuff that comes in it, plus the absolute like staples that come in the 99 as well. Like even if you deconstruct this, like if you were to deconstruct this deck, you've got easily 2 different direction builds for Merfolk out of this box alone if you wanted to, right? You could stick Simic with the +1/+1 counters, and then you could also take all the mono blue stuff out and go mono blue if you really wanted to.
We love to see it. Love options.
I like it a lot. How about you dive into Pirates?
Oh, sure. For the Pirate deck, we have Ahoy Mateys, which is helmed by Admiral Brass the Unsinkable. So this is a blue-black-red deck. Admiral Brass is a 5-mana 3/3. Enters the battlefield. You mill 4 cards. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may return a pirate card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. It has base power and toughness 4/4 and gains haste. So, finality counters is a new counter that can be put on creatures that if it would leave the battlefield, it gets exiled. Or if it would die, if a creature with a finality counter on it would die, exile it instead. So what you're going to be doing in this deck is milling cards and returning pirates from the graveyard, which sounds like a jolly good time to me. So that's Admiral Brass.
A Jolly Roger good time.
Oh, a Jolly Roger good time. Some new cards in here that are very exciting to me. Let's talk about the Indomitable, which is a vehicle for 4 mana. So it's a 6/6 that can be crewed for 3. Also has trample. And says, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. And then you can cast it from your graveyard as long as you control 3 or more tapped pirates and or vehicles. This is hot. This is like...
this is great. This is if you disregard everything else about this card as it is at the same rate and same ability as cards like Bident of Thassa and Reconnaissance Mission.
Yep, exactly. So, you don't have to swing with it to get its value, but it happens to be a 6/6 with trample. So I feel like I always go on record saying that I don't like 4 mana things that don't do anything on their own. So I would be looking to swap out, like if you're playing Bident of Thassa, if you're playing Reconnaissance Mission, I will be swapping those out for this because it is a body on its own. It turns one of your 3/3s into a 6/6 with trample. It also triggers itself. So if you hit somebody with it, it will trigger its own when a creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So this is the kind of thing that I'm looking to play as card draw in my decks that functions as both a creature and card draw. It's so flexible. I don't know outside of the pirate deck how often you're going to get to cast it from the graveyard. But I'm a big fan of vehicles. I really like them. I think that they're essentially creatures that survive board wipes. You're going to win more games than you think just by playing some vehicles in your decks. So play this. Play the Indomitable.
Yeah, I've said multiple times one of my deck building philosophies is, right, the more that a single card can offer you in your deck, the more versatility it has, right? You could go an entire game without ever creating this thing, but the fact that you have the option to do it if the opportunity comes up, great. This is a card that just does more for you.
On rate, for 4 mana, you want to draw at least 3 cards. So if you play this on, if you're playing an aggro deck, let's say you're playing spirits or pirates or something like this, that has creatures with evasion in it. You play this on turn 4 and swing with 3 creatures. On the turn you've played it, you've drawn 3 cards. If you get to untap and then crew it and swing for 6, or like keep attacking, and now you've drawn 6 cards off of this thing, like, you're doing amazing. So we love this. I'm glad that you're on board with it as well. I know people have a lot of very mixed feelings about vehicles.
On board the boat. I see what you did there.
Swab the poop deck, mighty. Let's move on. let's talk about Broadside Bombardiers. It is a 3 mana goblin pirate that's a 2/2 with menace and haste. Already big fan of that. And it has a boast ability, which is an ability that you can activate if it's attacked. Or if a creature, if it is attacked, or if
itself. Yeah, boast can be activated when this creature has attacked this turn. So depending on what the ability can be done, depending on the ability, you could do it middle of combat or second bane all the way up to your end step.
This is a little gripe that I have here, is that they've included an ability that is not typical for the set. It's not a set mechanic, and they don't have reminder text on it. So
love that.
You just have to know what boast does. But so when it attacks, you can activate its ability of sacrificing another creature or an artifact to have Broadside Bombardiers deal damage equal to 2 plus the sacrifice permanent's mana value to any target. So this is like, it's like a weird hybrid of Goblin Bombardment, which is an enchantment that lets you sacrifice creatures to just deal A damage. And like fling and like all of these little things that you just, the only like requirement for it is that you have to have attacked with this thing. So
it's super cool that this is done as a boast thing as well, because like what you could do off of like the trickiest thing I could see you could probably do off of this is if you've got another pirate that is becoming blocked, fantastic. Throw it into this.
Chunk it. Yeah, you can activate boast abilities in the middle of combat.
As long as this guy has attacked.
Yes. So I don't like that it's a 2/2. That's tough. That's tough for me to want. I wish it was like a 3 mana 2/3 or something. 2/2s get blocked pretty easily, especially when they have menace. You've got a 2/2 and a 2/3. They are surely going to double block this thing, and Broadside is going to die. But yeah, it seems cool. Like it's mega easy to trigger. It does suck a little bit that you can only activate it on your own turn. It's kind of one of the weird little downsides of Boast, is that it has to have attacked that turn. So like it does things in your combat. It makes combat really tricky. Like it makes your 2/2s kind of trade up with something with 4 toughness, like you were saying. Like if it gets blocked, you just throw it. It does the 2 plus its 2 mana value, deals 4 damage to something. Like I think that this, the more that I read it, the more things that I think it can do. So I'm pretty stoked on this guy. I'll be pretty stoked to try it out in some of my sacrifice builds, which I'm a huge fan of sacrificing things.
You could even say it'd be quite a blast to play.
Oh, look at John coming in with funds as always.
3 for 3.
Last new card is just a spooky little guy. It's a Skeleton Crew. 3 and a black for a skeleton pirate. It's a 3/3.
I love this.
I know, it gives your other skeletons and pirates +1/+1. This is the actual good ability of it, though, is whenever one or more creature cards leaves your graveyard, create a 2/2 black skeleton pirate creature token. So it will get +1/+1 and become a 3/3 as long as this is on the field. And then for 6 mana, you just return it from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. He's a spooky little fella.
He's good.
Just swashbuckling the depths. I don't know if he's great, but he's cool and he's a spooky little guy. We've seen on cards like Sir Conrad that the ability of whenever something leaves your battlefield, it can be triggered way more often than you would think. That is reanimation, delve, exile, escape, reshuffling. There's so many things that make creature cards leave your graveyard. Like if somebody exiles your graveyard, you're going to get value off of this. If you reanimate something, you're going to get extra value off of it. He will not trigger himself when you return him from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. That is unfortunate. I wish he came in with another 2/2. That would have made paying 6 for him feel a little bit better than just getting a 3/3 off of it, but that's life.
How it goes sometimes.
Yeah, the pirate deck is fun. I think that you're playing pirates. You're doing pirate things. You're reanimating. You're playing some lords. There's a lot of
Before you go into the reprints, did you want to touch on the alternate new legendary creature that comes in the deck as well? Because I don't think it synergizes super well with the deck itself, but it's a very fun design. I want to try to build this.
Yes. Let me find it real quick.
I have it if you want. Is Don Andreas the Renegade?
Yeah. I got it, John.
Yeah, go for it.
So, yeah, the alternate face commander that's new is Don Andres, the Renegade. It's 4 mana for a 4/3. He's a vampire pirate. This is like an old school Commander Precon, and I love it. So it says each creature you control but don't own gets +2/+2 and has menace and death touch and is a pirate in addition to its other types. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell you don't own, create 2 tapped treasure tokens. So he doesn't synergize with himself at all. He has no abilities that will actually trigger any of his own stat line, any of his own static abilities. But I love this. Being able to this is a build around commander. This is one that you're going to take out of this deck and you're going to have sitting in a pile, and you're just going to throw threaten effects in there. You're going to throw Gonti, Lord of Luxury, in this deck. This is a very, very cool commander, but not in this deck.
Yep. Name any of those cards within the Grixis colors that allowed you to either just steal people's cards or get things from the top of their library or hand. Any of those within the Grixis colors, Don Andreas rewards you for doing those effects.
Yeah, and there are things in this deck that will trigger him. Like there's a Direfleet Daredevil in this deck. There's a what is it? Hostage Taker is in this deck, which is a great reprint. It's not an expensive reprint, but it is a good one.
It's a very good card, yeah.
There's I'm trying to think of what it is. Captivating Crew is in this deck, which is just 4 mana. You're just going to gain control of something and attack with it, and it's going to get +2/+2 and menace and death touch. He's cool. I would say if I were buying this deck, which I don't need another Grixis deck. I certainly don't. I have a problem. I'm going to go to Grixis Players Anonymous next week. I would be taking him out of this deck pretty quickly. And trying to put in some other pirates. Reprints, while we're talking about them in this deck, we'll get to the obvious one in a second, but there's a Pitiless Plunderer in this deck, which is an uncommon that sneaked its way up to $11. So this should help with that price quite a bit, but it's a great one to have. Time Stream Navigator, also a pirate that has sneaked its way up to $8. Taking some extra turns, +1/+1 counters, all the good stuff. Now, the real meat of the reprints. This is the first time that Black Market Connections has been meaningfully reprinted, and it's in another precon. So, Black Market Connections is it's a $35 card at the time of recording this, which is significantly higher than Wizards has been giving us with reprints. So, I am stoked to see that each of these decks has something of that value in it that they're trying to bring the price down on a little bit, despite not acknowledging the second market. But I love a black market connections. I would like more of them, so I would like to see this come down quite a bit. So if you're looking for a black market connections and also a sweet pirates deck, I would say that this is a great deck for you.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, Grix is there has been a bunch of legendary creatures since basically they reintroduced pirates back into the game. Grixis is a very good option choice, but there have also been tons of legendary creatures that let you go either Is It or Rakdos and things of that nature. But I think you need to stick with Grixis. You get the biggest compilation of all the ones that synergize with themselves. You get to play all of those said legendary pirates in the 99. Yeah, just Grixis aggro. It's very fun. I enjoy it a lot.
Love it. Well, John, let's talk about some dinosaurs.
Open that door, get on the floor. Let's go ahead and do some Ramposaur.
I love it. Take me there.
I mean, look, they called the deck, I think it's called
Veloci-ramp-tor.
Veloci-ramp-tor, yeah. So they're leading into it. Absolutely. I love it. So Veloci-ramp-tor is a Naya-colored dinosaur-themed deck led by Pantlaza, the Sun Favored. It's 2 and Naya for a 4/4 legendary dinosaur. Whenever it enters the... Oh, no, is it enters? No. Yeah. Whenever it or another dinosaur enters the battlefield under your control, you may discover X, where X is that creature's toughness. You do this only once each turn, though. Discover is one of the new keywords.
Talk to me about Discover.
Yeah, so Discover is one of the new keyword mechanics of this set. Those familiar with Cascade are kind of going to know what this works like, but it works slightly differently. You exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card that with mana value X or less. In this case, it'll be determined by the toughness of the dinosaur that it enters. Cast it without paying its mana cost, or put it into your hand, and the rest go onto the bottom in a random order. So very similar feels to Cascade. Discover is kind of like a new version of it. It's in the main set as well. There's a couple others in this deck that do it, but it's a new like a flex number that they can determine on new cards like this. And unlike Cascade, so the difference from Cascade is that the spell you're trying to discover off of has to resolve. Cascade gets to happen regardless if you just cast the spell. So you have to have your stuff resolve with Discover. However, you get the option to put those cards in hand. So discovering into stuff like counter spells is not just dead Cascade anymore.
Ooh, I didn't even think about that. That's great. You can actually put counter spells in a Cascade style deck.
Mm-hmm. Pat Lazan herself, though, yeah, I mean, it's perfectly fine. Like, by itself, it comes in with a free card, and then once per turn, as you have a dinosaur enter, which token or non-token, it doesn't care which one, just get another free value equal to whatever the toughness of that dinosaur is. And dinosaurs are pretty typically in the higher end of power and toughnesses, right? Like the baselines are usually 3 or 4s. And when you start getting up into those big legendary ones, they're hitting like 8, 10, 12.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at a 10-10 right here. First card in alphabetical order.
It's real sick. The alternate new card that comes in the deck herself is not a dinosaur, but synergizes very well with dinosaurs, specifically dinosaurs that'll have enrage triggers. Weta Trainer Prodigy. That was almost English.
Close there.
Weta Trainer Prodigy. She's red, green, white for a 1/5 legendary human warrior with haste. Activated ability of 2 and a green and tap. Target creature you control fights another target creature. The ability costs 2 less, though, if it targets 2 creatures you control. So the idea behind that is you want to have a dinosaur of yours fight another dinosaur. If both of them have enrage or whatever, if you have any of those effects that care about a dinosaur taking damage, you can, for a green, have 2 of your creatures fight each other. If one might not kill the other, you have to plan that out on your board or whatever. She also, more relevantly though, if a creature you control being dealt damage causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, it triggers an additional time.
Killer.
That's sick. So find any of the good hits in this deck that have enrage. Immediately offhand that comes to my mind, Raging Raptors is in this one. Raging Raptors says enrage, rampant growth, which is great. So every time it takes damage with this in play, you ramp it growth twice.
That's amazing.
It's very good. And then all the other ones in here.
Green mana as well.
If you have if you have a dinosaur, if you have one of your creatures fight the dinosaur, it triggers twice. It's very, very good. I think it's very good. Again, there may not be enough in this deck to utilize her as the commander out of the box, but definitely build around if you've ever wanted to do the enrage part for dinosaurs. It's really cool.
To see it.
I was kind of struggling to pick out some highlights for new cards of this deck because, dinosaurs are just big dumb idiots, right? All of these cards are very decent in and of themselves of just, hey, here's a big dumb dinosaur. Here's a big dumb dinosaur that does big dumb dinosaur things. So I was able to grab a few though. I liked these ones specifically. Sunfrill Imitator, I think, is probably the best new one out of the box here. It's 2 and a green for a 3/3 dinosaur. When it attacks, you may have it become a copy of another target dinosaur you control, except its name is Sunfrill Imitator and has this ability.
Yeah.
Over the years, we have seen as of late that they are dipping more likely into these clone and copy effects that allow you to make duplicates of non-legendaries. They're kind of testing the waters.
Make duplicates of legendary creatures that don't die to the legendary rule.
Right. That's what I meant to say. I'm sorry. I said non-legendary. Right.
And for 3 mana, like
this is on the power scale of Sakashima the Imposter or Sakashima of 1,000 Faces. One of those kind of things. The ability to.
They have like a turn, but if you get to untap with this and just turn it into like your best dinosaur, and then you have the ability to change it again, like this is so killer. It's very dinosaur specific, so you have to be playing a dinosaur deck or a changeling deck or something, but like this is so good.
Right. Oh man, imagine like say a Morophon deck, have this become another Morophon. Yeah, we like that. The other one I spotted was Curious Altasaur. This is probably going to sound very similar to the other Merfolk that I just read from the previous deck that I talked about. Curious Altasaur, 3 and a green for a 2/5 dinosaur with vigilance, reach, and whenever a dinosaur you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card.
Yeah, it's like the Indomitable.
That's it. Yep. Clean, simple, just smack them with dinosaurs. I like the cards that just draw you cards, right?
Yeah.
Yep, but just
if
it's
you didn't
clean.
Come here to draw cards. What are you doing?
Exactly.
This show is called the Thoughtcast, which does nothing but draw cards.
Exactly. Yeah. But that was what I was saying though. Is like I said, a lot of the new card designs, and that is kind of true of all 4 of these. But some of the ones in this one specifically, they are heavy themed on the dinosaurs. They can't really go anywhere else, right? Like there is this white enchantment that's kind of open creature type. The From the Rubble is a 6 mana white enchantment that you choose a creature type as it enters a play, and at your end step you get a creature of the chosen type from your graveyard onto the battlefield with a finality counter on it. So that's it's flexible that it could go into any creature type deck, but 6 mana to recur a thing when you could also just be doing like that new Virtue from Wilds of Eldraine or Debtor's Knell, which is the same cost, but also Orzhov, you know what I mean? So
6 mana for something that doesn't do anything on its own is not something that I would like to be playing in my decks.
Exactly, yeah. So the new cards out of the dinosaurs deck, I'm not super crazy about. Again, they are very narrow focused on dinosaurs, and they will be very good for dinosaurs. But
I think that Bronzebeak Foragers is kind of cool. I think it's a neat design. So it's 4 mana for a 3/4 dinosaur that doesn't care about other dinosaurs, and that's why I want to talk about it. So it enters the battlefield. For each opponent, exile up to 1 non-land permanent that player controls until it leaves the battlefield. So for 4 mana, it's a Grasp of Fate. And then for X and a white, you put a target card with mana value X, exiled with Bronzebeak Foragers, into its owner's graveyard, and you gain X life. So you could play this on 4, exile a couple of Soul Rings, and then like on your next turn, go like 1 and a white. Just, eat that Soul Ring into the graveyard. So the downside of creatures that exile non-land permanents, creatures that have O-Ring effects, is that they're going to get killed and your opponent's going to get their stuff back. So this being able to exile something of each of your opponents, and then as you have extra mana to kind of eat those things, that value kind of goes away for them. So they have less incentive to take out your 3/4. Also, if they're spending removal on your 3/4 that's gotten one of their things, you're pretty happy with that because then you can just play Pantlaza and then discover into something. So I also, you guys know I love my Boros Blink deck. So anything that has an ETB ability that I can then, especially removal like this, that you can kind of get rid of all those things and then reset it. If you can do that, if you can dump those things that are underneath it and then reset it, like this thing will slowly take over the game. Very, very slowly take over the game. But I don't know. I like it.
Yeah. I think the deck itself is very cool. I mean, it is a typical green that wants to ramp into big, dumb idiots.
Yeah.
Reprint wise, gotta tell you that Chroma's Will does come in this deck. It is the top card from the reprints in this one specifically. Being able, like, it's a fantastic finisher, right? At just the cost of just having your commander down in play, all the stuff that it gives you, right? Like, just, all right, offhand, it does Vigilance, Indestructible.
Yes.
Flying, yes. First Strike.
No,
Protection. No, Double Strike. Protection from all colors.
One more.
Hexproof?
No.
I give up.
Lifelink.
Lifelink. There
so
it is.
Chroma's Will is very complicated. It's 4 mana for an instant. You choose one of the 2 abilities that it has. If you control your commander, you get to choose both of them instead. So you either get, without your commander, you either get your creatures gain Flying, Vigilance, Double Strike, or your creatures get Lifelink, Indestructible, Protection from all colors. If you have your commander, your creatures get Flying, Vigilance, Double Strike, Lifelink, Indestructible, and Protection from all colors.
That will close you out a game.
Yes, it is a game ender. This is, yeah, it's really good.
It's super good, yeah. Apex Altasaur is also in here as well. This is one of the best enraged dinosaurs, yeah. He's kind of always been described as a green wrath.
It is.
Yeah, being able to multiple times on the turn it comes down into play, especially, right? Just like fight and fight and fight and fight.
Yes,
it's very good.
The thing that I learned about it is the first ETB ability of it is it has to fight something, and then its enrage ability is a May. Mm-hmm. It fights up to 1 target creature you don't control, so you don't have to keep fighting. You can basically go, I'm going to take out these 6 creatures that have 9 combined power, which will not take out the Apex Altasaur, and then pass. And then damage comes off at the end step, and then you just have a 10/10 sitting around that if anybody swings into you, it's like a time bomb, like a landmine that they've set off that will just like, cool, I'll block that thing and I'll take out 4 other things.
You got it.
Apex Altasaur is amazing. Also, with the face commander, it will discover 10. Nice.
It's just super.
That will get anything in your deck. It will flip the first non-land card.
Yeah. Chandra's Ignition is going to be your wrath that triggers Enrage as well. You target a creature, and that creature deals damage equal to its power to all other creatures and all players.
I didn't realize that card sneaked up to $15.
It's been big lately in these decks that care about having like a big, like infinitely large creature down in play, right? You get one big thing, like Walking Ballista. It's another thing you could do with Walking Ballista, basically build it up super big. You know, one of those kind of things, or any other creature that's got like an infinite power. Basically, you just bolt everybody down, or Soltham, Toralf, those kind of things. Got to talk about Toralf while Jared's not here. Got to come up at least one in a
Toralf.
You got it. Xenagos, God of Revels, same in here, same thing. Just like FASA, first reprint since the original Theros, disregarding Secret Layers. Xenagos is awesome, giving each of your combats giving something double power and haste. Awesome. You're gonna smash very big with this. And Descendants Path, a very fun tribal themed enchantment that just each turn potentially just gets you a free creature off the top of your library.
Yep. If they're ever good. Back to Xenagos real quick. What's the card that has Entwine that you like can either search your library for 2 creatures or put 2 creatures from your hand onto the battlefield?
Tooth and Nail.
If there ever was a deck to put Tooth and Nail in, it's this one because it already includes Xenagos, which is one of the 2 creatures that you search for with Tooth and Nail.
What's the other one?
A lot of times it'll be like Emrakul. You'll do like Xenagos and Emrakul, so you have like a 30-30 that swings. 12 or whatever.
Yeah.
Turns into a 24-24. But like if you could get out Xenagos and Apex Allosaur and it's like boop boop.
Or the Zakama that comes in the deck too.
Woo, hot.
Yeah, Zakama Primal Calamity comes in this deck as well, along with Topiary Stomper and Wayward Swordtooth, both very cheap and efficient dinosaurs that give you extra land plays. Quartzwood Crasher to turn your trampled dinosaurs into more trampled dinosaurs. We love that, friend. You've got Path to Exile in here as well, just clean, simple removal. We love some Path to Exile. And Return of the Wildspeaker, easily one of the best. It acts as pseudo, like you can use it as a pump spell if need be, but probably its more relevant keyword is being able to draw a card for the greatest power among non-humans you control.
So good. Very, very good. Rishkar's Expertise also in the deck. Very similar. Yes. Draw cards equal to the greatest power, and then you get to cast a card for free. Cost 6 mana. So this is definitely a theme that they're throwing in here is power matters for card draw, which is great because you're in 3 colors that don't have amazing card draw.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you can get through the hoops of basically not doing tons in your early game and just doing ramp, the moment you land down some big dinosaurs, just an unkillable wall of meat.
It's a meat wall.
Love it.
Love it. This looks like a very fun deck.
This would ideally also be the precon to pick up if you're planning to purchase any of the Jurassic World Universe Beyond insert cards from the main set itself. This is going to be the home for them.
Which, of note, there will be a chance to pick those up because each of these comes now with a collector booster sample pack. It's something they've been doing for the last year or so with the precons, where it's a 2-card pack that is like just 2 rares, or it's like a rare and then a wild card slot of a collector booster. So both of them will be foil. There'll be some showcasey things. It might be a Jurassic World Universes Beyond card.
Yep. This would be like if you wanted to play Jurassic World, Jurassic Park, the deck, get this precon.
Love it. Well, we've got one deck to talk about last, if you were finished talking about some dinos. Love it. Well, we have the Spanish passing priority. Nice. Passing the turn to me. We have the Spanish Inquisition of some vampires and demons and clerics. Oh my. So this is a white-black vampire-centric deck that has some sub-themes in it, but the face commander is Clavileño, First of the Blessed, which is a 3-mana 2/2. Whenever you attack with anything, target attacking vampire that isn't a demon becomes a demon in addition to its other types, and it gains, when this creature dies, draw a card and create a tapped 4/3 white and black vampire demon creature token with flying. That is mega strong. That is, and this is the strongest of the face commanders. Because he doesn't even have to attack himself. You can play a couple like cheap tokens. Like if you play a 1/1 vampire on turn 1, play him on turn 3, swing with it, and it gets blocked. All of a sudden, you have, first of all, drawn a card off of this thing in, again, famously bad card draw colors, and then turned it into a 4/3 white and black demon with flying. This is ridiculous. Like, this guy is mega strong. So we love Clavileño. This is, you got your very classic vampire tribal cards, which we'll talk about in a second, but are new cards for the deck that are very interesting to me. First one that I want to talk about is Charismatic Conqueror. It is 1 and a white for a 2/2 with vigilance. Whenever an artifact or a creature enters the battlefield untapped and under an opponent's control, they may tap that permanent. If they don't, you make a 1/1 white vampire token with lifelink. So for 2 mana on a 2/2 with vigilance, you have now given all of your opponents the choice to either basically have all of their stuff come in tapped or every time they play a creature or an artifact, not even play, this works off of treasures. This is a treasure hoser. When a creature or an artifact enters under their control and they decide that they want to use it that turn or leave it up to block, you make a 1/1 with lifelink. This is going to be ridiculous value. If you get to untap like 2 turns with this, you're going to look up and just have like 6 or 7 1/1s that this is made. Or it's tapped down all of your opponent's stuff. Like, it's sort of an unquestioned authority, sort of a token maker. This is the type of value card for only 2 mana. Like, you can play this on turn 2. This is ridiculous.
This makes me feel like the sort of like triggers that will go unnoticed for, or at least normally unnoticed for most of the game. Like, it feels like, obviously this is a completely different like a card ability it does, but like this feels like Soul Warden, where like you get it down super early and everyone's just gonna like disregard your triggers for most of the game and just like, whoops, your board is 15 creatures bigger. Whoops, you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. Also, like, let's say you're playing in I think that this will see some play in some higher power pods. Because you play this and then your opponent plays Dockside Extortionist, what are they going to do? Are they going to like not use their 7 treasures that they had enter that turn? Certainly not. So like for their 2 mana creature and your 2 mana creature, you've now made 7 1/1s off of this that all have lifelink. Like, this is very cool. I would not be surprised to see this start cropping up in some higher power decks.
Mm-hmm.
Love the Charismatic Conqueror. The next one is one that maybe only I'm excited about. Again, going back to my Boros Blink deck. But Redemption Choir is 2 white for a 3/3 with lifelink that has a Coven ability, which is Coven is something happens whenever you have 3 creatures that have different power. So Coven of whenever Redemption Choir enters the battlefield or attacks, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is Sun Titan that costs 4 in any deck that you have built correctly with it. So again, as a Boros Blink player or any type of Blink in white, Sun Titan is already a staple in those decks. So being able to have a slightly different requirement for a Sun Titan, but it only costs 4, I am way on board with this. So I will be looking to pick one of these cards up as quick as possible.
Yeah, that ability is pretty achievable, pretty much even like on the turn you would cast it, because like, let's say in your first 3 turns before the face commander, you get down a 1/1 token. Then the face commander is a 2/2, and then this guy's a 3/3. That's Coven right there.
Coven's already in. And especially with the commander where you want your stuff to be dying and turning into demons, which is a 4/3. Again, another very different power for that early in the game. Being able to play this down and get your thing back that just died to make a vampire, just died to make a demon, is going to be mega strong. But even like in my deck, like I'm playing like Wall of Omens, which is like an 0/4 or whatever it is, 0/3, I don't know. So you have 0 power, then you have something that has like 2 power, and then you play this thing, and all of a sudden, again, it's on enters or attacks. It's essentially the Sun Titan trigger, and it gets back any permanent. So if you've played an Evolving Wilds, you get to get your Evolving Wilds back and ramp with this. If you've played anything that sacrifices itself, you just get it back again and just keep on doing that thing.
I'm a traditional enjoyer of Sun Titan Commander Sphere, of like adding a mana, seeing it for a card, swing with the Titan, get the sphere back, add another mana, draw a card.
Absolutely. Very the lines that you can do with this, just look up any type of gameplay that has Sun Titan in it and you'll understand why this is a very strong card.
I agree. That's very cool.
So we've got that. And then digging into a very type-centric card, let's talk about Order of the Sacred Dusk. Have you seen this one, John?
Order of the Sacred Dusk. I can't say that I have.
So it's an 8 mana 5/5.
This one. Yeah.
8 mana 5/5 with flying, lifelink, and haste. It itself has Convoke. So Convoke is your creatures can help you cast this spell. Each creature you tap while casting the spell pays for 1 generic or 1 mana of that creature's colors. So if you have 6 random tokens plus a white creature plus a black creature, you can just tap all of those to play this for free. It itself also has Exalted, which is whenever a creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn, which is an ability that stacks, which is important because it says other vampires you control have Exalted. So you're going to tap 8 of your creatures down, play this, and then you now have at least 9 creatures that have Exalted, which all stack on each other and then you have a 5/5 with flying, lifelink, and haste that can immediately attack. So if my math is right, and you've got, like, let's say you've got 9 creatures and you've played this thing down for free, which you're going to want to try to do as often as possible. 8 creatures. You now have 9 Exalted triggers. You're swinging that turn with a 14/14 flying, lifelink, haste. This is
sounds about right to me.
This is going to come out of absolutely nowhere and just change the entire tide of games. Like, that lifelink on that is huge. That you're going to be able.
Let's even scale it down a little bit. Let's meet in the middle. Let's say you've got 4 lands and 4 creatures. Right? Tap for 4 lands, convoke with 4 creatures. You are still swinging in with a 9/9 with haste.
Yeah, on potentially turn 4. 9/9 with haste and lifelink. That's going to gain you 9 life. Yeah, no one's blocking this. You can't block this on turn 4. Like, what are you doing? Haste is really important on this. I think that this would be a really bad card if it didn't have haste, because you're never going to get to untap with it. This is going to, like, swing the tide of the game. You're going to become the enemy, but now you've got this huge thing that you paid basically nothing for.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree.
We love that. I think of the 4 decks, I think vampires might be the strongest of them. I would say, like, if you're playing in a pod, which we will be doing very shortly, coming soon, the Thought Clash episode 2 is going to be the Ixalan decks. It's a little preview for those who watch the YouTube videos. So we've got, if you're playing with the 4 of these, this is going to be the strongest of them. Vampires is also just a very strong archetype to begin with, as we've seen with some of the most busted commanders that they've ever printed.
Yeah, I think that kind of statement is going to be true, probably, especially of this one. And I would probably even also say, I would say vampires is probably the strongest. I would say seconded by the merfolk, if for nothing else, because pirates and dinosaurs have only within the last 5 years gotten support. Whereas
dinosaurs
stuff like
has only been a creature type for 4 years.
Basically, yeah. I mean, some stuff got eroded, but didn't have typal synergy.
Nothing that
you know
matters.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Right, exactly. That's my point I'm getting to. There was no typal synergy for both of those aspects up until about 5-ish years ago. Whereas merfolk and vampires have both been part of the game and supported since day one almost.
100%. Yep. Yeah, I mean, Baron Sengir has been around forever. You can go back to Alpha and find vampires that are really good.
Yeah, or just even a classic, Lord of Atlantis, right? Lord of Atlantis. Yep, that was from the beginning of the game. Yeah, so you can find merfolk spanning the history of the game. Vampires, you can do the same thing. We've had 3 Innistrad sets. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you can find something.
Plenty. Well, and speaking of things of the past, let's talk about some reprints.
Please hit me with that good one. I am
let's go. The words that you've been waiting to hear, and I'm going to make you wait a little longer for them. First one we're talking about is Elenda the Dusk Rose. This was a $9 card. Elenda, she gets +1/+1 counters whenever something of yours dies, and then when she dies, she makes 1/1 vampires with lifelink equal to her power. Mm-hmm. Mega strong. That creeped up to $15. So this is a great reprint.
$15 even with a reprint recently from one of those Masters sets. I think. Yeah. I think Double Masters maybe. It might have been Commander Masters.
It is Double Masters.
It was Double Masters. Okay. Hey.
Still $15.
Nice.
So that's one that you'd be looking to throw in there anyway. So love that they threw that in there for us. New Blood is one that I was shocked to see was expensive, but
because it was only ever in Edgar Markov's precon. It has not been reprinted yet.
Yeah, so it's cost 4 mana for a sorcery that, as an additional cost, you have to tap an untapped vampire you control, and you gain control of target creature. And you essentially turn it into a vampire. It has a lot of very convoluted text, but you gain control of a creature and it becomes a vampire. I guess there are certain things like if you gain, because I'll read the whole text. I'm understanding why the text is there. You gain control of target creature and change the text of that creature by replacing all instances of one creature type with vampire. So like if you gain control of a Master of the Pearl Trident, it turns it into a vampire, and rather than it saying all other merfolk you control get +1/+1, it will now say all other vampires you control get +1/+1. So we love that. I understand why they threw this in here now, and also why it's a $12 card, but great reprint. And then, John, from the rafters, the moment you've been waiting for, there's an Exquisite Blood in this deck. This is
Let's go.
The other half of the combo 18 million times. But Exquisite Blood is currently sitting at like $50. Like, it is a hefty card. So for them to throw this in a precon is amazing. It's just a 5-mana enchantment that says whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. This is going to, again, just shift the tide of an entire game.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
it's so perfect that Exquisite Blood comes in this one, and who would slot perfect into this precon? But Vito Thorn of the Dusk Rose would just slot perfect in here.
Totally. We've talked in the Discord a little bit with our good friend Dustin about some of the reprints in this. He was asking why there wasn't a Polyraptor in the dinosaurs deck, and it's the same reason why there's not a Veto or a Sanguine Bond in this, which is Wizards does not like printing infinite combos in their precons. However,
on purpose,
you are highly encouraged to go out and get either a Veto, or a Sanguine Bond for this deck.
Or Defiant Bloodlord, which is also a vampire.
Yeah, there's so many different combos that you can do with Exquisite Blood that will just end the game.
Listen, even without combos, Exquisite Blood is just perfect as is. When you're playing Exquisite Blood fairly, like, oh yeah, anything. It doesn't
matter whether you've dealt the damage to the opponent. If anybody loses life, you gain that much life.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. It's like Wound Reflection in the Doctor Who decks, where it's just like, oh, all of a sudden, everything that's not coming at me has double strike. Like,
I'm a huge advocate for the Exquisite Blood Sanguine Bond combo, but just played fair as is, Exquisite Blood is perfect.
Absolutely.
It will shift the tide of your game almost unequivocally.
Yes, and that's what we're looking to do. Is if you're, again, this is technically speaking, this is a 5-mana enchantment that does nothing on its own. It will never play out that way. This is not like Panharmonicon, which is a 4-mana artifact that does nothing on its own. This is a 5-mana enchantment that you're going to say pass, and then by the time it gets back to you, you will probably have gained about 15 life by the time it's come back. And then from there, it's just gravy. So we are big fans of Exquisite Blood here at Thoughtcast. Very happy to have this as a precon.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I've got for the vampires here.
Yeah. I think that covers the decks. You got any final thoughts before we go to wrap up? Like,
final thoughts is shout out Wizards. My God, if you compare these precons to precons from like 2018, these are like finished playable decks. Like, looking through them, I'm like, I don't know if these need upgraded. Like, yeah, they're strong. Even the fact that they've included things like a Xenagos God of the Revels in a dinosaur deck, that is a huge leap for Wizards, because 5 years ago, they would have never put a non-dinosaur in a dinosaur deck. Doesn't matter whether it makes the deck better or not. They've actually just looked at these. Whoever's designing these, Gavin, I don't know. Whoever's designing these is finally going, these are products that people want to buy. People like me and you, seasoned Commander players who have been playing for 12 years or however long we've been playing. I'm looking at these going, oh, I could buy this and just get staples out of it. Rather than paying $50 for an Exquisite Blood, I can pay $50 and get a friggin' sick vampire deck and also have an Exquisite Blood. Same thing with the Pirates deck with getting a Black Market Connections. Like, I bought the party deck, took out the Black Market Connections, and had a sick party deck after it. Like, this is what I love doing. We're essentially able to like buy singles from WotC and have a cool deck with it too. The one thing we didn't talk about is the mana bases on any of these. I think they're fine. These are classic precon mana bases. There's
I mean, we've talked about this before, like it's especially in the decks that we have covered that are 3+ colors, right? Like it's precon mana bases, but I mean there's an avenue for you, right? It's like all the other spells of these decks you don't necessarily need to put bunches of money into for upgrade potential to the lands. Yep. You know what I mean? Right?
Exactly.
If your spells out of the box are good to go, that's less time and research you have to do digging into other spells to throw into the deck. Take your extra $40 that you would have done for upgrades and just shove some lands into it, right? Like
absolutely
all the stuff that was printed in those Doctor Who decks, all those really good lands, those are starting to come down quite a bit.
Yes,
like all versions of them, regular frames, extended frames, foils, surge foils.
Just surge foils.
Exactly, right. So take $40 that you would have been putting into precon into this for upgrade potential and buy yourself like 10 non-basics that will change the deck.
Yes. There are definitely some upgrades that I would throw into some of these, like
absolutely.
The Merfolk deck really could use the Vodalian Hex Catcher. Or whatever it is, it's from Dominaria United. It allows you to sacrifice a Merfolk to counter a spell unless you pay one. Like there are certain things that like all of these could use if you want, but like at base value, I think these are some of the strongest precons that they've printed. And we're talking about this in the Discord. This makes the Commander Masters precons look like an absolute joke. Like what were they doing? I'm so glad that we're here now and that we're getting like real powerful commander decks at precon price points. Like this is great. There's no reason to be playing like old school commander decks anymore. This is like just my kind of hot take is like if you're playing a deck that you built 10 years ago and haven't touched anymore, you're going to get outclassed at the table by a deck that you could just buy at the store for $50. Like it's taking away a little bit of the fun of deck building, but at the same time, like they're including things like our boy, like they're including things like Don Andres in these decks. That's like the deck is not themed around this at all. You could take this out and build a sick deck around it. The other thing that we didn't talk about is that there are commander cards that are not included in the commander decks. This be found in collector boosters,
set boosters as well. Yes, like this set is going to be currently. Yes, that's a discussion for another time. But the point is that this is going to be one of the last standard sets that includes draft and set boosters, and this will be the last set that they do the set booster and collector booster exclusive commander cards. Starting with Murders at Karlov Manor, they're going to be discontinuing that entirely, so they won't be in those at all. But that's a discussion for like play booster stuff.
Real quick, to end us off, I just want to talk about my boy, Petsin Gnome Champion, which is one of the commander cards. So it's not standard legal. They've printed this for commander. It's not included in any of the commander decks. But this is like, what I'm saying is like, they're making these cards that you can build around that they aren't doing a precon for. So Petsin Gnome Champion is 3 mana for a 2/2 legendary artifact gnome. When it or another double-faced artifact enters the battlefield under your control, mill 3 cards. You can put an artifact from among them into your hand. And then you can craft with 6 artifacts into the Golden Gear Colossus. So it flips. Becomes a 6/6 with vigilance, trample, and enters the battlefield or attacks, transform another double-faced artifact, create 2 gnomes. Like, they're including cool stuff like this that I'm thrilled about. So another one of those really fun ones are Mr. Populate Proliferate friend, Xavier Sal. Xavier Sal, the Infested Captain, black, green, blue, legendary 3/3 human fungus pirate. Tap, remove a counter from another permanent you control. Populate, tap, sacrifice another creature, proliferate. So good.
Clean, so simple. Good. You know what's a dumb counter to pull off of permanents? Finality counters.
Yes. Just remove it.
Mm-hmm.
You love to see it.
I love that so much. But these feel very fresh. There's a new design philosophy going on here with these precons.
Yes, these have the at least 2/3 of the MTG Thoughtcast stamp of approval on these precons. Go buy them if you're interested in any of these creature types or any of these staples, or just having some new fresh decks that will hold up at your table. No matter what table you're at, these will hold up. Go get these. Big fan of them. Parting thoughts, John? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, no, I agree with your thoughts entirely. Yeah, these I mean, tribal themed decks are very easy to pick up for like all scales of them, right? Something like if you enjoy any single one of these, like I think what's going to end up being probably one of the most popular picks likely will probably be the dinosaurs one, because who doesn't love dinosaurs?
Of course.
And anybody who's been purchasing the main set will be opening up those Jurassic Park cards. Perfect slot in, right? So like 100%. You're looking to introduce somebody to learn how to play the game, show them, hey, here's a fun deck where you get to play your freaking Indominus Rex. Probably actually not Indominus Rex, that one's Soul Tide, but you know what I mean, right? Like you throw your dinosaurs into here, play dinosaurs, smash.
We love it.
I'm in for it.
Well, if that's the case, watchers, listeners, if we missed anything, let us know in the comments here. Let us know what your favorite cards are from the set. Even better, join our Discord. Let us know there. Jump in. We're always hanging out there. We're just having a good old time. So thanks for watching. This has been the MTG Thoughtcast. We will see you.